I am currently standing on a beach, stuck in logistical limbo. A beach that questions the very notion of what it means to be a country and whether or not borders as we know them really exist. So I'm shooting this video in Cyprus, and Cyprus is a heck of a place to travel. It is frighteningly interesting, with a very engaging and somewhat tragic history. Now, the reason I'm here is because I'd always intended on visiting Cyprus as part of this trip. But I thought it would be interesting to send an email to the United Nations, who are positioned here in Cyprus, creating a buffer zone that separates the north and the south. And I sent them an email asking to visit that buffer zone. I said that I'm a photographer, I am interested in photographing people from an objective lens, taking photos at a distance and embracing the cultures that surround me. And that seemed to align with their values, because to my surprise, they said yes. And I was able to visit one of the most unvisitable places on Earth, an abandoned airport that hasn't been used since 1974. So I'm currently headed somewhere that is a piece of territory that doesn't really belong to a country at all. I mean, it does, and yet it doesn't. It's currently occupied by UN soldiers, one of whom will be accompanying me today. So the story is, I thought I'm headed to Cyprus, and I figured if I'm going to Cyprus anyway, I might as well email them and ask if I'm allowed into this buffer zone that sits between tensions to see if I could take a couple photographs. And rather surprisingly, they said yes. So we've just passed passport control. We are officially in the buffer zone now, but we've given our passports to the gentleman. They're holding on to them until our UN officer will escort us to the airport, the abandoned airport. I'll be honest, that was a much easier passport control than like even getting into the US. I felt much more calm and less grilled than I do entering there with an ESTA. So this is looking good. This is good. Let's talk a little bit about this project. So it all kind of started when I saw the possibility to email the United Nations and ask for permission to enter and photograph some incredible places such as this. And I had this thought. I like to do street photography. My genre is, street documentary. I'm gonna do this anyway. What if I turn this into something? We're heading around the north of Cyprus, we're heading around the south. Wouldn't it be interesting to photograph the people just living their daily lives? And wouldn't it be something to contrast or juxtapose those images with what's left in the buffer, with these abandoned homes, buildings, and businesses that people can no longer go back to? And it was just an idea. I emailed asking for permission to enter, and this is about a week ago, and 2 days ago, I was sent a confirmation. And at this point, I'm in the middle of Turkey. I'm in Konya, watching some dervish dancers. I check my phone, and I think, oh, I need to move. And so I booked some bus tickets, I booked an overnight ferry, and I made my way here on a whim in just 2 days to enter by the time that we were supposed to. I'm currently in the middle of the Cyprus buffer zone. And I'll be honest, I'm actually being a little bit facetious by filming here, because although this looks abandoned, and indeed this building is abandoned, there are still plenty of villages and a thriving farming community here in the Cyprus buffer zone. And it's strange because it feels like I'm technically nowhere, and I guess in a way I am. The people here predominantly speak Greek. There's a surprising amount of English, but what really took me off guard was the number of people that spoke Russian in this village. One of the things that has surprised me the most about Cyprus is how, I want to say, culturally and ethnically diverse it is. For one thing, there's a lot of Polish and Russian tourists, and there's obviously a very big British influence due to their previous occupancy. There's a part of Cyprus that's still like technically run by England, and you can see that with like fish and chip shops and those sort of little discrepancies. But it's places like this Shiv temple in the middle of the buffer zone that continue to exist, that really capture my attention. There's also a really large Nepalese community here, which I have found delightful because I very much like Nepalese food, and it's been very nice to eat some. This is Golden Donkey, the largest donkey farm in Cyprus. And that is a sentence I never really thought that I would say. So in our adventures just rolling around Cyprus, we came across a product called donkey milk, which is kind of like a milky liqueur akin to Bailey's. And apparently this is the largest producer of it. And I will be honest with you, it is surprisingly delicious. And if you do go to Cyprus, I mean, just come here. It's adorable. They have the softest little ears, and you get to try some donkey milk. One of the things that has made Cyprus so rewarding to photograph has got to be its history. Like much of the Mediterranean, Cyprus shares a strong cultural and historic connection with both Greece and the Greco-Roman period. But due to its proximity to Asia Minor and the Middle East, it's been a really strategic vantage point that connects the Anglo-European world with the Muslim one. And for that reason, it's been occupied by many different countries. Notably, it was conquered by the Ottoman Empire in the 16th century, who had their own administrative power here until the 19th century, at which point the island was handed over to England. And this was a period of history that I didn't know much about before getting to Cyprus. And it surprised me. One of the things that the British did whilst here was run internment camps. Now, they ran their first batch of internment camps from 1946 to 1949. Now, these internment camps were designed to hold Jewish immigrants and refugees, many of whom were survivors of the Holocaust, on their transit towards Palestine. And this was to control those numbers. Now, these internment camps were ceased shortly after the establishment of the State of Israel, but it really shocked me to see these camps that were run for survivors of the Holocaust that the British were part of helping free. But that wasn't England's only time at which they ran internment camps here. They also ran a series of camps in the late 1950s, which were designed for members of the EOAK, or the guerrilla freedom fighters that were looking to usurp English power and make Cyprus an independent state. Now, these leaders of the EOAK, after they gained control of Cyprus when the British left in 1960, and Cyprus was an independent nation, they would hold a referendum that excluded the Turkish Cypriot minority community, that asked if Cyprus would like to become part of Greece through the process of enosis. And naturally, in only asking the Greek Cypriots, the referendum was successful, and this terrified both the Turkish and the Turkish Cypriot minority who lived here. And so Turkey, along with England, who wanted to maintain its military presence in Cyprus and felt that it could do so with an independent island and not an island part of Greece, sought to prevent that enosis under the guise of protecting the Turkish Cypriot minority. But later in 1974, in the act that would divide Cyprus, Greece sent their military to perform a coup d'etat that would try to usurp the Cypriot government. Once more, Turkey would turn to their old allies in England and ask for assistance in preventing this coup d'etat. Now, England, who wanted to maintain its military presence regardless of the winner, did not get involved, but it also did not condemn Turkey's initial actions. And so Turkey sent its own military to the north of Cyprus, but not just to expel the Greeks, but also to gain as much territory as they could. And the Turkish soldiers remain to this day, even though the Greek military left shortly after their involvement in 1974. And this actually kind of complicates things for both tourists and locals, because it creates an unofficial division in the global community. See, if you come here by ferry from Turkey like I did, then as far as Turkey's concerned, you've not left Turkey. You've gone from mainland Turkey to the Northern Republic of Turkish Cyprus, which is part of Turkey. And so you don't get a stamp in your passport. But as far as the global community is concerned, and they recognize Cyprus as being one whole nation, you've left Turkey and entered the independent Federation of Cyprus without receiving an exit or entry stamp on your passport. I didn't learn that until I was in the Nicosia airport, and my UN military liaison informed me that I may have accidentally entered this country illegally. She also said it didn't really matter unless I tried to fly out of southern Cyprus, which I'm not doing. I'm catching the ferry back into Turkey. But it was very interesting to learn, and very alarming, to be honest. An interesting little frame. I think it's a nice minimalist vignette. I really like how the shapes create this story. You know, you've got the stairs that move upwards, and you've got that contrast between round lines, straight lines. I think that kind of creates for an interesting story. So this is Famagusta, which is like, as far as abandoned places go, it's really interesting because it's not really abandoned. Like, people don't live here and you can't live here, but you can visit it. And it's become this strange kind of dark tourist location where people come and just look at what was once this thriving hotel city that is now caught between this conflict. It's just such a strange place. Yeah. One of the things that I've really tried to capture with my photography here in Cyprus is the theme of division and connection. I've tried to achieve that through a number of strategies, primarily through the use of harsh, hard lighting on a lot of my subjects, as well as framing my camera in a way to use the scenery to either divide people or bring them closer together, to really evoke this theme of a nation that has been split in two, but to try and leave a little bit of hope, of connection. And I like to think that I'm not the only one who is using art as a means to explore that theme of bringing the country back together.
So this project is called the Singing Tree Project, and it's in collaboration with 3 organizations: Unity Through Creativity, Peterson Argo, and Visual Voices, which is located right here in Cyprus. So we decided that we wanted to create a mural that was bi-communal. So we had people across the divide to brainstorm and talk about our hopes, our heartaches, ways of coexisting, unity, compassion, and such.
Is the fact that we collaborated, 8 artists, we collaborated together to create a unique design and one design. And after designing this tree, basically we involved like multiple communities, refugees, other minorities of the island to share their ideas and thoughts about peace in the island.
The best outcome of this, other than the mural itself, was the bonding with different artists and activists who wanted to do something about bringing people together, not just us, but other people involved, children and refugees and all of that.